On your radio, the voice of the world's famous, world's one and only sports prime minister, Bunmi Blair. Yes, currently we have the Manchester derby right before us. 28 minutes in, Manchester United nil, Manchester City nil. Well, it's a great game on paper. Not a lot of people would have given United a chance to survive up to now, but the last time out, they lost 6-3. But they seem to be coping real well inside the first half an hour. So it's really interesting. Hopefully, we will get the best out of this encounter. Okay, well, we have our guest right here. I told you in this hour we will be talking the role of agents in the national teams, especially in the Nigerian national team. Recently, it was everywhere online that the Nigerian national under-20 team coach Ladan Boso, rejected an overture of 80 million naira, but yesterday there was a press release from the Nigeria Football Federation denying that. But there's always been stories about agents trying to influence, the agents trying to influence national team coaches' decisions and all the likes of it. Okay, so what exactly are the roles of agents? The moment you say agents these days in Nigeria, people just think, oh, these guys are coming to do this one, they are coming to do that one, they are coming to influence the coaches or this or that. But do they really have a place in football, in national team football? We will be talking about this.
I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I do it every morning on Morning Crossfire from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Nigeria Info 95.1. And I'm Femi D. Amede. Join the biggest conversation around the national politics every day in a way that is trustworthy, full of passion, and yes, covers the biggest politics and the stories that matter to you. See, you have all the reasons to find out what's going on in Nigeria and be engaged differently. Let's talk. That's the way to go, even this morning.
Defensively, but it's difficult to hold out this City side with the amount of attacking talents on the pitch. So City are getting close, and it seems as if United are dropping deeper and deeper. And yeah, the longer the game goes on, I think the more difficult it will be for United to keep City out. But so far, it's still more or less the same thing. Although Kevin De Bruyne is finding more spaces behind the midfield lines of United.
Okay, well, we have one of our guests already in the studio. We were expecting the media officer of the Nigerian under-20 team, that's Sharif Abdallah. Well, but he's yet to turn up. But we have our other guest, Eby Emenike. She's a sports consultant based in England, but right now is in Nigeria based on some circumstances. Well, quickly, let me use this opportunity to say sorry. She lost her dad recently. She came in for the burial, and everything is done now.
Everything's done.
We just want to say our hearts with you. We hope you find a place to continue life and remember him in good light.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, but she will not be speaking that way throughout this show. She has a lot of life, she has a lot of energy, and you trust me to be able to bring that out of her. I chatted her up yesterday night, just asking, you heard the news about, the overture towards, the national under-20 team coach Ladan Boso.
Yep.
The news was somehow, like a confirmation of, whatever, speculations that have been going on in the Nigerian football market. People claiming there's always a chance that someone will have to pay because something will have to happen, and agents consultants or representatives like yourself are most of the time in the middle of this. And, just when the national the 20 team were building momentum and, everyone was believing this is going to be one of the best teams we've ever seen, then the news, broke out on the internet, 80 million. And the coach...
a lot of money.
A whole lot of money. And the news is the coach rejected it and says, no, I'm not taking this. Even though some few days later, there's this press release by the Nigeria Football Federation saying he never granted that interview. So what is it about agents' money in the national team? And what exactly are the rules of agent when it comes to national team? Eby.
Right, okay, so a football agent in the first instance is a person or an individual who assists a football player through his career. So you guide him through his career. That's like more or less the basic, that's like the definition. Depending on where you are, on what kind of players you work with, what ages, what caliber, then obviously there are a few other little tweaks that can be done, but that's the main thing. Now, I think we kind of briefly had this conversation.
Eby, sorry to cut you.
You're watching Man United.
Man U just lost the biggest chance of his game with the goalkeeper out of his line. Marcus Rashford could not score an empty net, even though we had to give credit to the defender, for making a goal-like clearance, Toby.
Yeah, and I don't think there's somebody else that you want the ball to fall to other than Rashford in the form that he is in, and that was a glorious chance. I think that is what you're going to live and die on, those kind of chances. And it was just unfortunate that he wasn't able to make the best of it.
Well, Eby, where do you belong? The sky blue or the reds of Manchester?
The funny thing is, I try not to align myself too much with particular, as a football agent. You just want to stay neutral. I do have a team, but I'm not going to tell you who it is.
Okay. So please, go ahead, let us know.
I like to stay neutral.
Fine. Well, we'll find out. We know how to find out.
You journalist, I trust you.
Okay.
I trust you.
So tell us more about this.
Yeah, so when it comes to the role, because I remember when you said me that topic, I was like, the role of a football agent in national teams. They don't have a role in national teams. I don't believe that football agents have a role in national teams. Football agents have roles to guide their players' careers, okay? And a lot of agents, agents have a bad name anyway. That's the reason I like to call myself a sports consultant, because it's less controversial.
Agents.
Yeah, well, yeah, I am, but just sports consultant just kind of covers a lot more things, covers a lot more avenues. Now, when it comes to working with players, a lot of agents are spending money, especially in Nigeria, Ghana, call it Africa, because a lot of the football players who are up and coming don't have the resources to support themselves. So agents end up having to invest quite a lot in players, like sending them on trials and even sometimes helping their families and stuff like that. So there's a lot of money being put into it. So you find that agents are wanting to get a return on their investment. And this is the reason why they probably try and influence what's happening in the national team, because once a player gets national recognition, then you just never know where he could end up. And some clubs actually specifically ask you for national team players. They'll say, has he played under 17, has he played under 20, because obviously that is meant to be some kind of an indication that a player is a top quality player.
Okay.
But yes, in some of the African leagues you pay to actually to put players into teams. So it doesn't always mean that the player is a really good player, but that's what it's meant to. Well, that's what I've heard. I've never been involved in it. I've never had to pay, and I never plan to pay.
This is Nigeria
Nigerians, and the same with the Ghanaians and wherever else. I'd like to think that we all want a national team that we can be proud of, that has quality players, so that when we go to AFCON, whether it be the under-17s, under-20, or the senior national team, or when we go to the World Cups, we go there and, and do well,
Well, from all you've said, the agents doing the right things, trying to help the player, becoming, the best, and,
There's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with recommendation.
How come the agents have bad names, which you also, admitted to?
Well, it's just like in everything. You have police officers, they're meant to be there, law-abiding, help you, but you have those ones with bad names. Soldiers. In every walk of life, there'll be good and there'll be bad. So there are good agents and there are bad agents. There are some agents that, just are in it for the money. I get people calling me sometimes saying, "Oh, I need you to advise me. I want to come into football. There's money to be made. This money, I have to make it." And that's one of the first things they talk about. And the first thing I say is, well, hang on a minute. If you're coming into this industry to make money, then you need to sit aside because this is not for you. Because a lot of them end up coming in thinking like within the first couple of months they can make money, and they get frustrated. And this is where they end up putting a lot of pressure on the players. So yes, agents do have a bad name, and it's because of you hear about the kind of money that agents make. But these are usually in the big leagues. Like in Nigeria, we don't make that kind of money. The kind of like millions they talk about. Like the pennies of Harveys, and minis. Ravioli, we don't make that kind of money.
Okay. Well,
in the Nigerian setting.
In the Nigerian setting, but react exactly to the story, which has been debunked now. Even though there were investigations,
Where did the story come from?
Now the thing is, as a journalist, I had my own background. Try to find out what exactly went down. The thing is, there was a discussion according to some of those who have the story. A chat between the coach and some journalists, not supposed to be news, and he was talking to them about some of the things he had seen, so that was how the story came out. It was not supposed to go into the news, and that's why he's denying it right now.
So you don't think it was fabricated? You think it was something that came out that wasn't meant to come out?
Exactly.
And now they're trying to retract?
Yeah, of course, which has been retracted.
It's a hell of a lot of money. Is
it possible?
It doesn't sound realistic.
Exactly.
It doesn't sound realistic because you're putting that kind of money in with no guarantees that this player is actually going to blossom. So if you put that kind of money in, any business you put your money into, you're looking for a return on your investment. So if you put what was it, 80,000?
80 million.
80 million naira.
To naira, there's 100,000 US dollars.
100,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
Was that meant to be like for one player, or was that like a collection of players?
Like a collection of players.
A collection of players altogether. So it could be like maybe like 5,000 here, 5,000 there, something like that. I mean, I still think it's a lot of money.
You're good with calculations.
Pardon? I still think it's a hell of a lot of money well, the thing is, they're probably looking at the fact that, like, some of these players, when they do well, you had somebody like Murphy who went from Lithuanian league to Belgium for like 100,000, and then boom,
millions now.
8.1 million or something he was transferred. So, but I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, and not in such quick succession. Not in quick jump. It could be like maybe 100,000, and then the next move will be like 500,000. Then the next move will be like 2 million before he actually gets to that. But I think a lot of people look at that and straight away they want a piece of that pie. They want to get involved. There's nothing wrong with recommendations. If you know somebody who is a scout or a coach, I think really the proper setup should be having scouts. National team should have scouts, and those scouts are the ones that people should have access to.
I'm not the coaches.
I'm not the coaches. That's what I personally feel. It should be the scouts. There's nothing wrong with me saying, I've started working with this really good under 18 player, and I think he'll be really good in the under 20 setup. And then the scout saying, okay, give me some more. Give me some videos, tell me where I can watch him. Then they watch him. If they like him, he recommends them to the coach, and he can get us. But if not, then I'm never going to say you have to take this player, because like I said, we all want a national team where we can, I mean, look what happened with Ghana and Nigeria. Nigerians were just so upset we couldn't get to the World Cup.
Well, at some point, the Nigerian Football Federation were against, agents, coming around the national team. I mean, I think there was also a point where there was a press release, against, like, they don't want to see agents, around the training grounds. Do you think the agents have roles they play coming around the national team, just like you said, you have a player. The player is your asset. You invested in him. You want to see him develop. If he gets a chance to play for the national team, you want to be there. You want. So, do you think the agents, people like yourself, have the right to be coming around the training ground to come and see your players and not the likes of it? Why?
Yeah, because like you just said, I mean, a lot of the players I work with at the moment are quite young, and it's that encouragement. It's giving that encouragement and the confidence, because sometimes when they see somebody there, they feel, they feel loved. I put it that way. They feel loved. They feel like, okay, that I have somebody who is here to support me, and it gives them that extra kind of drive to work hard. And also, if you see something you don't like if a player misbehaves on the pitch, you're seeing it and you're able to talk to them. You shouldn't behave like that.
Correct that.
Yeah, you can correct it. And if it's somebody who has the technical ability, you can also say, okay, what you did there, the way you passed that ball, you shouldn't do this. You should do it this way. And that's what agents should be doing. But it's when the money is involved. They say money is the root of all evil, don't they? Anytime money enters the equation,
Sorry to cut you. Now that you've brought in money, how, apart from money, how do you try to influence, your player as an agent in the national team?
How do I try and influence the player?
Selection. His selection. Thank you.
I've never tried to influence, because that word influence, it seems like a very very innocent word, but if you're more or less, it's the same thing as bribe. You're basically saying, what have I done?
I said influence.
No. When you say influence, because anything you're doing, because I might not say, okay, Bunmi, here you go, there's money. But I might say, okay, I might be calling you every evening, telling you that this is your shirt, final, asking you to come out for a meal or something. I've not actually physically given you money, but in a way you're influencing somebody's decision, and you're making them do something they wouldn't regularly do. So I wouldn't say I've done anything to influence. What I explained earlier, I can recommend a player and say, I know of this player. When it's a player I'm working with or somebody else has recommended a player, I'll say, okay, Bunmi, for instance, there's this player, just take a look at this player and let me know what you think. And if you tell me, Eby, the player is not good enough for the national team, I will totally accept that. And what I would do is try and see how I can help that player become a better player. I'll ask you for your feedback. Is it something that is it something technical? Is it attitude? What is it you think is the problem? And I'll speak to the player and try and get him to fix that. But I have a good reputation, I believe, and it's something I wouldn't want to damage. I wouldn't want, I wouldn't want to muddy, my name. So I wouldn't get involved in anything like that.
Okay, influencing. She wouldn't want to get involved in influencing, the selection of, her player. Well, I'll be coming back to that, in a vigorous way. But let me go back to Toby. Toby, we've seen exciting moments. Manchester City asking questions. There was even a time Riyad Mahrez had to go down asking for penalties or free kicks in dangerous areas, but nothing is yet concrete in this one. It's been interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to say, I think halftime is coming at the wrong time, because we are getting to the...
It's already 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And the game is getting my interest. And I think United, they are struggling with Rashford a little bit. I think he pulled up a little, and I saw Anthony trying to warm up. So that may be what to look out for in case they make a change during halftime. But I think City's right-hand side, in terms of their defense, has been leaking. Rashford has been able to find ways to go in, and he's had some chances, but Ederson has been up to the task. But I think for City, the more they commit more bodies forward, the more prone they are to conceding a goal.
Whoa.
Yeah, and although they are going to create chances, it's just a matter of getting the better chances. But so far, United have had the better chances, even though City have been the dominant team.
They're not converting anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, something in football is this: when you get your chances, when you get your moments, and you fail to capitalize on them, most of the time you regret it.
Yeah.
Will United regret missing those chances this afternoon?
Look at the quality of the first chance, in particular for Rashford. I think so.
Well, it's halftime, guys. This is when the coaches earn their money, so they say. But Erling Haaland has been in the pocket of Luke Shaw so far in this encounter. There have been questions about why Luke Shaw, why not Martinez. But the first 4 or 5 minutes must have given you a hint into why the coach has taken that decision. But don't forget, football is about 2 halves. 145 minutes, the other 45 minutes. And we will be here to let you know what happens in the other 45 minutes. Goalless at halftime. Manchester United 0, Manchester City 0. Out there in Spain, Real Valladolid 0, Rayo Vallecano 0. And we still have a guest right here, Eby Emenike. She is a sport consultant. She says, don't call me an agent. She says the reason why she doesn't want to go by the name agent is because that name has been bastardized, to an extent. Okay, let me ask you. You said something, I asked you about how do you influence, your player selection in the national team. You said you played around it a little and said you don't necessarily influence. And I'm going to ask you, another question based on what has happened in the past. And Nigeria Football Federation said they don't want to see coaches, or players hanging around agents when they are in the national team. Do you agree with that? Based on the fact that you said once you start going out with the coach, you say, oh coach, why not? Let's meet at the popular Ogunade joint. Let's take 1 or 2 things. And oh coach, let me put you. Why do you want to go with the boss? Man, range is here. You can let's go together. I'm just saying that. Don't you think agents should not be? You could say you will not get involved in bribes and not the likes of it. But don't you think agents should, because of our peculiar nature, our terrain, bar agents from coming?
But how do you do that?
I'm asking.
How do you do that? So if you're saying, for instance, agents are not allowed when there's a match going on. So, for instance, when England played Nigeria,
obviously not matches during preparations, like the campaigns we have with the under-20s now.
Okay, so you're talking about so not just socially, because you can't just ban people from hanging out socially. That's just not going to. It's not possible, But when they're camping, again, it's still. But how do you do it? These are people. This is your human right. How do you? So somebody all of a sudden says, oh, you can't hang around with, Bunmi because he's associated with, the national team or something. And then what will happen? I'll be arrested if I'm seen with you. Or is this something you just expect people to...
the coach will be, reprimanded.
But for doing what, though? If he's not guilty of anything. What are you reprimanding him for?
So, exactly. Now...
This is why you have the likes of Anas, who are going around, trying to find these things out, trying to and I guess they're doing a good job in that sense because they're trying to. I don't think it's deterring what's going on because people still have ways of doing it. Maybe the coaches themselves might not collect money, but I keep on hearing all the time that it's happening. I haven't seen it.
How is it happening? Do you have examples of how it's done now?
I don't. But especially with the likes of Anas on the prowl, I reckon there'll be kind of feeders. I doubt the coaches will get their hands dirty.
What are feeders?
Well, feeders, people around who probably get their hands dirty.
Okay, people around the agents or people around the coaches?
The coach.
Okay, people around the coaches will probably receive bribes.
I reckon so.
Okay.
Because footballers tell me about it all the time. They talk about it all the time.
Like I have Toby now, he collects on my behalf. Then later we.
There you go. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Now, you are based in England.
I am, yes.
Do you guys out there in England have this kind of problems we have here in Nigeria? Are you worried about presence of agents around national teams out there in England?
Not at all. But I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because maybe it does. I don't know. The thing is, I'm not actually that close to that side, because my interest is African players. So, that's kind of where my eyes and my ears and my heart is. So I don't know. But we know that football in itself. You saw what happened with Blatter and co. They started collapsing one by one. We know that there's a lot of money in football and there's a lot of corruption in football. The one we see here is just the small one that we talk about, we make noise about. But there's a lot of stuff happening in football. So there could be, things happening. I just don't think it won't be as obvious. Nigerians would like to brag as well. We'll say it. We'll actually talk about it. That I did this, I did that, and Whereas if it's done in England, they'll probably just keep it quiet between themselves. And I don't know. But I've never heard of it happening.
Okay, but in summary, would you say presence of agents, reps around national team, is it more negative or more positive?
For who?
For the national team, of course, for the interest of the whole.
For the interest of the national team,
Yeah.
it could be both. I think there's pros and cons in everything, because as I mentioned before, if you have a young player there who's misbehaving, and it's somebody you've worked with for a very long time, and they have that respect for you, you may be able to have an influence on the player and make him a better player for the national team, which will be a positive thing for the national team. But as you said, there's also the chances that you'd have somebody who's trying to influence, and the kind of money. Let's just go back to that story and just assume that it's true.
No,
that's a hell of a lot of money to turn down.
We will come back. We'll come back to that, guys. We need to go back and take some calls. Then we'll come back to that. I would like to take your experience. You've talked about your hearing stories about people having to pay money, and all the likes of it. I will come back and see how we can feed on that. But by the way, I want Abuja to be a part of this. What do they feel? The coach was reported to have said someone offered him 100,000 US dollars for them to have some players in his team, being in charge of players in the team and all the likes of it, but he rejected it, even though we have a new report this time around from the Nigeria Football Federation insisting that conversation never took place. But these kind of reports keep coming back as a debt to Nigerian football. It's the coaches, the players. Sometimes you go out, they tell you, Nigerian players, they don't make the team on merit. You're a coach in the Nigerian national team. People keep telling you, they collect bribes. That's what they do. They collect bribes and not the likes of it. So what do you think about this situation? Is it possible to ban the agents from coming close to the national team, the coaches, and not the likes of it? You heard Eby saying, without the agents, things will not function well. They represent these players, and they also help them, become the person they are. Help them perform well and all the likes of it. So we are in a bit of a fix. How can this be fixed? I want to hear from you. You go to the phone line 070-0951-000. That's the number through which you can reach us right here in the studio. You can also join us. We are live, on YouTube. Yes, we're live on YouTube. You can join us, and you see we're streaming live. You can see what is happening right here in the studio. So don't miss out on any of the chants. You want to see the face of Toby, or you want to see the face of the beautiful Eby right here in the studio. All you need to do is just search for Nigeria Info FM Abuja, and you see that we are live. Let's see our first call for this afternoon. Hello. Yes, good afternoon and welcome to the frenzy. Okay, KGB. Okay. Thank you. Hmm. 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 Okay. Yeah, no serious. Okay. Yes. What exactly are you driving at? You need to state, we want solutions and not just speculations like Nigeria. What do you know about Nigeria? All right. He says we don't need agents, but well, let's say in Nigeria we decide no agents. I mean, Nigeria Football Federation will not work with agents, but FIFA right there recognizes the role of agents, and they are the rightful representatives of players. You understand? And if you're going to negotiate a contract, you need a representative, need a consultant, or probably you just say an agent, to represent you. So you can't literally say you're taking in agents out of
You can't take them out. And like I said as well, I've mentioned this before regarding like the financial help.
Yeah.
Players in this country, without that financial backing, NFF is not going to give them that financial backing. It comes from agents and sports consultants like myself, So without that, a lot of these players that are doing well in Europe at the moment wouldn't have been anywhere near, being able to travel, because they can't afford the flights. They won't be able to afford, the logistics of actually going for trials.
Like the way agents are seen now, they're seen like a mini god. Like to the players, they represent a lot, and somehow they have the money to influence. Now let's go back to your story.
I don't have that. I don't have 80,000 to influence anybody.
80 million.
I don't have that kind of money to influence
80
anybody.
million. All right, let me take this call.
I know what I'd be doing with it.
Okay, let's take this call. Hello, good afternoon to you. Say your name again, please. Israel. Nice to have you, Israel. Let's talk.
I can't.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm. All right. Thank you very much. He wants to know why is it that Nigerian agents, negotiate, less, compared to their European counterparts. He said recently he heard the Nigerian player was, earning peanuts, somewhere in Europe. Why do Nigerian agents, belittle players, from this part of,
It's not just Nigerian agents. It can be European agents as well. We've got to realize that the kind of development and training we have in Nigeria, you can't compare it to our European counterparts. So you can't just expect like an 18-year-old who has never left the country to go to Europe, and you want to then compare him with an 18-year-old who has gone through the ranks and been developed in Europe. It's just not possible. And the thing is, I know that a lot of times we all want the best. We all want big things. We all want, who know like better things. So you expect players to come from here to enter Liverpool or enter Man United. It's just not going to happen. Again, because of that development gap. So you need it's almost like a trampoline. You need like trampoline clubs, which are all these clubs in Eastern Europe, like Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. The players go there, do well, and then from there they can move on.
So at that point, when they go to Lithuania, they go to Armenia, they don't earn much.
A lot of times they don't. There are actually a lot of arrangements that clubs can make, whereby the player may be earning less, but then they'll have like a sell-on fee. So they'll have a percentage of the sell-on fee when they sold on. So let's say the club will say, do you know what, I can give you, okay, let's say it's a club playing in the Premier League of that country, okay, but it's one of the small ones. He doesn't have a lot of money. They'll say, okay, we can pay your player 1,000 every month, for instance, and then we'll give him 10% or 20% as a sell-on if he does well. And that is also something to push the player, because the player now knows that, if they do well and they're sold, then they'll actually get a big chunk of that money. So it's, in a way, it's something that motivates them to work hard. And this is also what clubs can get, because a lot of times clubs in Europe will tell you, well, the player, he's not had any European experience, he's not actually that good, and then they'll tell you that they can't afford to pay a transfer fee. So a lot of players actually leave Africa without a transfer fee, but then there's the option of a sell-on fee. I know some clubs as well that will actually help pay the salaries in Europe for players. So the club may say, I can afford 500, okay? And maybe the minimum wage is 1,000. So the club here could say, okay, I tell you what, I will play 500. So the club in Africa will be subbing the salary
Of the player
and then they'll also,
out there.
yeah, so it's almost like they have a 50-50 split. So so if a club comes and they pay $1 million for the player, it's like 500,000 each. So there are different arrangements you can come up with, and this is to try and make sure that the player gets an opportunity, because without a lot of these arrangements, players won't get opportunities. It's like when they had TPO was banned recently. Well, I say recently, about 5 years ago, by FIFA, third-party ownership. And I know that one of the big ones was Tevez.
Tevez and the other guy.
The South Americans, yeah. They do it. Portugal do it as well, and it's a I think TPO is a great thing, but unfortunately, just like everything, somebody will come and mess it up for everybody else.
All right. Well, thank you for the insights. We'll be going to asking some more questions. What players should look out for if they want to sign up with an agent. Each player. These days you hear players calling you and saying they need an agent to promote them. Coach, can you get me an agent? I'm not an agent. How will I get you an agent? I'm not like. By the way, the Manchester derby is back. Second 45 minutes kicks off, and is still goalless. United have had the best of chances in the first 45 minutes. Well, Toby, quickly, how do you think this is going to end? City obviously wouldn't be happy with the first 45 minutes they've had. United will be happier. Does that put City in a better position, or it puts United in a better position going into the second half?
Yeah, I think it puts United in a better position, and the reason is they've had the better chances, and like we spoke about in the first half, City had all the ball, but they didn't do much with it, right? So if it continues like that in the second half, I think United are going to go in confidence that they can make one goal, because Rashford on the pitch is on a good goal scoring form. Why not in this particular game against City, right? So I think the key for City is they need to try to create better chances for Haaland. Haaland has had about less than 10 touches in the game so far, first half and second half combined. So they need to get him on the ball a bit more. And if they're able to do that, they will find themselves creating chances. And until they do that, I think United will be confident of getting a goal before them.
Well, teams have learned how to put someone like Haaland in a cooler. And so far, the Ice is doing a good job in the cooler. Well, I see your message, Chair. He says, chatting you guys from Jai. So this match will end in a draw. Wow, that will actually be good for the Arsenal fans. And this one says, good afternoon, Bunmi. It's true, a player has been given a red card and he will play he will pay for the red card. Well, obviously that's not what we're talking about. I don't see, maybe it's in your local competition.
They play, yeah. I've heard about that as well, because obviously the club is fined.
Yeah.
So if you get a yellow card, you get a red card, the club pay a fine.
If you're not in Europe?
I don't know about in Europe, but I heard it happens here.
Here in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand. Rules of the competition.
To be honest, I think everywhere. I think everywhere the club will pay a fine. But I think what he's trying to say is that the player is made to pay the fine. It's punishment, I guess. It's like, well, we're not paying for your crap.
Yeah. Well, Simon from Kabusa says, never walk alone. Says, good afternoon, A team is going to end 2-2. Wow, 4 goals in this game. I don't. Maybe a Liverpool fan or an Arsenal fan.
Well, he said we'll never walk alone. So I'm assuming.
And I'm also assuming you're a Liverpool fan.
No.
Good afternoon, Coach. Osimhen is better than Haaland. Haaland is blessed with good midfielders. He does not have good ball work, no dribbling skills, no marking ability. If Osimhen joins or have good midfielders, like Haaland, God knows the guy they put body for ball. My name is CJ. Thank you very much, CJ, for your message. This one says Man City all the way. A damn from Lube. And this one says, hello guys, good work on the frenzy. I want to predict a draw for the match between Man United and Man City. Dami from Lube with that one. Now,
a lot can still happen in this match.
Yes, a lot can still happen.
There's lots of time.
Yeah, a lot of time to still play, and it's just the second 45 minutes now, and just in 49 minutes played so far. Haaland up there, but yet to really get a feel of what it looks like punishing that man in goal for Manchester United. David De Gea, and he always looks vulnerable. If you have a good one from afar, he's likely to spill it, but not much from the City team on that particular one. Hello, good afternoon to you. Yes, good afternoon and welcome to the frenzy. Yes. Hmm. That's not true. That's not true. And you cannot say Nigeria is naturally not good in anything. I totally disagree.
Wow. That's just somebody who is extremely upset and frustrated with Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you very much. He says agents not the best in Nigeria, but well, that's his opinion. Quickly, education-wise now, had many people, many players approach and say they're looking for agents. And I've also heard many people say an agent approached me and says I should sign this document. They want to take me to Europe. You know, if you are approached by an agent in that particular way, what are the things you need to look out for footballers, young footballers, who could be in that situation?
Yeah, there are a lot of things, and a lot of these things are I've put out on my YouTube channel as well. But I guess one of the first things you need to check out is make sure that the agent is actually a registered agent.
How do you know a registered agent?
You can go onto the website, onto FIFA's website, and have a look. Like me, for instance, if you go onto the England, because I'm registered with the England FA, if you go on there, you'll see my details. You'll see that I'm registered on there.
So once you're not registered as the person who comes around,
you shouldn't be working with anybody who is not registered. You see, because we've gone from being football agents to registered intermediaries, and now FIFA has realised, excuse me, the cry we've been crying since before they actually brought in intermediaries, because they opened the door to everybody, like bus drivers, everybody. You don't have to do an exam. I did an exam, so I learned a hell of a lot. I studied, because FIFA gives you things to study in order to be able to guide these young players. So I did that, and people were failing that exam. I remember going to the NFF once, and there was a guy there crying. He failed it 3 times, and after that, you can't do it for 2 years.
3 times?
Yeah, he failed it because you fail it once. You couldn't do it for 6 months. You fail it after that one, you couldn't do it for a year. Then you fail it again, you couldn't do it for 2 years. So he now failed it 3 times, and he was probably thinking, this money I want to make, it's delayed for 2 years again, And he was there crying. I remember at the time the general secretary was just telling him, just ignore him, leave him if he doesn't want to go and study and pass the exam. I think he came in again to see whether he can do something and get, and get a license. Yeah. So FIFA actually, so what I was saying is we went from that to then intermediaries, where anybody
can be an intermediary.
Pay. You just have to do like a few checks to make sure that you don't have a criminal record, all that kind of stuff. But then you just pay and you become an intermediary.
Intermediary, not an agent.
Yes, but then you don't have that knowledge. All that knowledge that that I had to learn, all that stuff I had to learn to do an exam.
To manage a player.
Exactly. So now FIFA is bringing back those exams because they've realized how important it is, especially when you're working with younger players. Right. So FIFA actually doesn't allow players to work with those who are not
registered.
Not licensed agents. And you can actually get into trouble if you're working with somebody who is not a licensed agent. So that's one of the most important things. And it's also because we're under FIFA. So if I do something wrong, so if I'm caught offering money to a coach, for the national team.
You lose your license.
I could be in a lot of trouble. I could be sanctioned, depending on how many times, there are different, depending on what you do, there's, different punishments that could be kind of, meted out to you.
Unlike intermediaries who could just be anybody, could be the player's father or something.
No, intermediaries, as long as you're registered as an intermediary with an FA, you're okay as well.
Okay.
It's just random. Like I said, like a KK driver, all of a sudden he says he's now an agent. He's not registered. He's just collecting money from players, telling them he'll send them abroad. Nothing FIFA can't do anything to this KK driver because
what should one watch out for apart from checking out if these guys are registered? What points are when one approaches you to say I'm an agent, I want to take you to Malaysia, I want to take your son, because what they do in Nigeria is tell you go and sell your father's land, gather all the money you have, you give it to the agent. One thing I learned at the point is once an agent tells you to bring money. It's a flag. It's a flag.
It's a red flag. Again, I have a video on this on my YouTube channel. It's a huge red flag. Once an agent, because an agent makes money from commission, so they do the work for you, and then they get commission based on the fact that okay, I've got you this lucrative deal, and I'm going to get, let's say 10%. That's something that agents are fighting at the moment. That's one of the big
should
problems.
be 10%.
Yeah, exactly. It should be about 10%. So that's where you get your money. But if an agent is asking you for money up front, they haven't done anything for you, but they're asking you for money up front, that should be a red flag.
Money probably for your transport, your visa fees and all the likes of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said it's a red flag, but it doesn't necessarily mean that person is a crook. I'm not saying that straight away the person is a crook, but you need to understand what it is you're paying for. You need to understand who this person is. You need to have a letter from the club, an invitation letter from the club, basically saying, this is what we're offering you. And if the agent is saying, okay, I'm not going to foot this bill, you have to foot this bill, they need to tell you what exactly they're footing. Okay, the airline, this is how much you're going to pay if you're paying for accommodation, if you're paying for any logistics, for the visa and everything, But once an agent starts doing that, I think you should just avoid him anyway, because most agents will do all that for you if they really believe in you and they know that once you start paying money, it's almost like, there's no talent there, but we're just going to make money from you anyway, which is a bad thing.
All right. Thank you very much, Eby Emenike, right here, sports consultant. It says, don't call me an agent, but in the real sense, she's an agent. Well, Manchester City looking for penalties. Could there be a review in that one?
Yeah, I think they've reviewed it, but I don't think that would be strong enough for a penalty, although City have every right to claim for a penalty. And it looks as City are knocking closer at the United's defense, but still they haven't created any chance that is worthy of not compared to the one Rashford had in the first half, right? So yeah, I think the longer the game goes on, the more City are going to probe this United defense. But having said that, the flanks are going to be left wide open for Rashford and now Anthony, who has replaced Martial. Yeah, so it's still the same as the first half. City knocking on the door, but it's not knocking well enough.
And then there is a change also for Manchester City. 57 minutes played, and not much in this second 45 minutes, but two changes. Phil Foden is out, and we have Grealish in for Phil Foden, then Anthony in for Anthony Martial. That's for Manchester United. So expect more fireworks. Has the match lived up to expectation?
A little bit, although we are yet to see any goals, which I don't think a lot of fans will be too happy, especially the City fans, right? So it has lived up to the expectation of a tense game, but not so much in terms of fireworks.
Well, guys, if you have questions about agencies, agents, about consultants, football consultants, come on, let's talk about it. We talked about agents and national teams earlier, and Eby proceeded that the role the agents play in the lives of players, can never be, overemphasized. So their role is still there. You can't tell agents not to come. You can't tell them not to come to their jobs. Hello, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. This is Lady Sunshine.
Sunshine, where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Kigali.
Oh, from Kigali. All right, Sunshine, let's talk.
Yeah, I think talking about our players, making more money. I think we should take a clue from Egypt. You know that most of their players, they are not allowed to play outside clubs except clubs in their country. That same thing too can be done in Nigeria. We have all the money.
Sorry, Sunshine. I don't think it's true. It's just that maybe they are comfortable with their league. If they have better offers, they move out. There's no particular rule which says they can play. In Egypt, Egyptian players can play outside the country.
If you play outside the other clubs, you can't play in their national team.
That's not true.
You can't play in their.
That's not true.
Yeah,
Mo Salah plays in England and is one of the.
Maybe now things have changed, because before I know that for sure that if you play for outside club as a Egyptian, you will not play for their national team.
There was never something like that, Sunshine. It's just the players are just comfortable playing in the Egyptian league, basically.
Okay, if they are comfortable playing in the Egyptian league, why can't we also make our own players to be comfortable also? Because what I'm trying to repeat is that we are not innovative enough, we are not creative enough, and we have the resources to make our players to be comfortable. I mean, what does Egypt have over Nigeria? They just have a rich history. People going to the authority, going to look at the things and a pyramid. That's all. What do they have?
Okay. So Sunshine, sincere apologies. But hello, Sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah, sincere apologies.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, City has gone ahead in this one, and Pep said some days ago that he was a genius, and that substitution has been made once again, and he has come on to score. Grealish from an assist from Kevin De Bruyne. Toby.
Yeah, it's been coming. I mean, Kevin De Bruyne had a bit more of a better end to the first half, and now he has carried on that same pace in the second half, and he's been able to create a goal. I mean, a lovely cross to Jack Grealish. I mean, that was begging for it to go in. It was just unfortunate that Haaland wasn't able to get on the end of it, but Grealish,
you want Haaland
yeah,
to
so, I mean, City fans will wonder, but Grealish has been able to turn up in this particular moment, and I think it's been coming. The way City have been knocking on the door, although this was their first relevant chance, they've been able to combat, and I think that is the right way to go. Now that they've settled with the first goal, United are going to try to get into the game and try to commit more bodies forward. Yeah, so, 1-0 to City.
Heartbreak for Manchester United. I said it in the first half, when you don't take your chances, most of the time you get to regret it.
Snooze, you lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Snooze, you lose.
Snooze, you lose. Close your eyes and you're dead.
I've got a question for you.
Okay, please.
There was some news at one point that our coach hadn't been paid for like 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
How true is that?
How true is that?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Is that something? I mean, we saw it in the media, but you are more in the circles.
Of course, there is no beating about the bush. The truth is, some national team coaches are being owed, and the Nigeria Football Federation has not said they are not being owed, including Coach Jose Pizarro.
Right.
That's
Okay.
the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going back to this thing about bribes.
Yes.
Now, I'm not condoning it at all, and I'm not saying that because you're owed the salary means you should now
Start collecting bribes.
But don't we think that is?
Of course.
It's definitely something that, I mean, if you're not getting paid and you have bills to pay, you have things to do.
You need to find
The
a solution.
temptation will be there to take bungs,
Okay.
So
you're saying.
So the NFF saying that agents should stay, we're making out like it's agents that are causing all the problems. It's not. Everybody needs to look at the role they play and play it well. And if we can all play our own roles well, I think we could have a very happy marriage, a very happy relationship, where win, win, win.
where the coaches are paid regularly, they wouldn't have to receive a call from an agent saying, take this and let's this, maybe if he has his family member or, someone in the hospital, he needs to pay that bill. Oh, take no string attached.
Some people are bad. Some people are bad and they'll collect, even if they're getting paid regularly on time plus Jara, they'll still collect.
They'll still collect, that's
but I'm saying that the temptation increases, once you don't have, once there's that lack of money and you need it, the temptation is kind of heightened for you to collect bonds.
All right.
I just thought I'd drop that one in there because I know agents always seem to get the bad name. Yeah, so I just need to kind of like open it up and everybody take responsibility of,
You're doing a good
where
job.
they're going wrong.
All right. This one says, hi, Prime Minister. Thank you for bringing the consultant to enlighten us. Please, how do I reach the sport consultant in your studio? Hope you don't want to offer her money. Okay. I have interest in being an agent. Please, Prime Minister, I really need to reach out. Well, maybe join on social media, right? Okay. On social media, you can reach out on social media.
The black_TBD.
Okay, so she can educate you on what you need to do.
And if you're coming in to make money, then don't bother contacting me.
I think he wants to make money.
You're coming just to make money. No, money is like the money will come from it, but you need to come in for the passion and the want to help, the want to assist players. Yeah.
Well, we're getting towards the end of this session of the show. If you're to advise young footballers, what are the common issues you've heard with young footballers from Nigeria?
You mean those who are still here, or those who have travelled, or
those who have travelled, those who are still in Nigeria? Let's just learn from one or two things you have.
Football, this game is very competitive, and that's one thing footballers need to know. Even if all the players, that we have were to enter Europe, there just won't be enough space for everybody. So I know it might seem like a negative thing, but I always tell players to have a plan B where they can, because I know not all of them can have a plan B. I think, if you can, it can be educational, it can be academic, it can be just, handwork, it could be, learning something else just in case the football doesn't work out. Because you see some of them, they'll keep working, and you see all these motivational speakers, never give up. And I always say, if something isn't working out, you have to give up, but don't give up on life. You can leave that avenue. If you want to be a dancer, but you can't dance, and somebody keeps telling you never give up, how far are you going to take that before you actually, realize you're not actually going to make a career out of this? So you have to close that door and start something else. So don't give up on life. Keep trying things until you get what you want. So with young footballers, it's the same thing. A lot of them are just really there. Some of them, you ask them, what else can you do? They say nothing, man. This is all I can do. This is all I can do.
All right, Eby, we need to go for a short break. We'll be back for you to round off this session. Abuja, don't go anywhere. It's Football Frenzy on 95.1 Nigeria Info. Alright, still 94.1 Nigeria Info Football Frenzy on your radio. Bunmi Blair, we've got Toby David and Eby Emenike, a sport consultant. I prefer to call her an agent, right here. Okay. Well, she doesn't want to be an agent so that the bill will not be too much, if she's to pay, for whatever has happened. But quickly, Eby, rounding off this section, we have just about 2 minutes. Can you just round off, some of your experiences, what you think players need to learn, they want to go to Europe and all the likes of it in 2 minutes?
Yeah, I think players need to align themselves with good academies. Attend play. If you hear that there's a trial taking place, go for trials. Try and get yourself aligned with a good football club or an academy in Nigeria or within your home country. In the first instance, you find a lot of them going online, desperately looking for agents, and that's where they fall into all the dupe. Once they see that you're desperate, that's when they can start taking advantage, and some of them aren't even licensed. So make sure you're working with a licensed agent, and get yourself aligned with an academy. You need some good videos, because that's another thing. People contact me, help me. You're not playing active football, so you don't have any match fitness. You don't have any videos. How am I meant to help you? Social media as well. You find some of them, they'll contact you on IG, but all the pictures they have on there are them, posing in jeans and t-shirts. There's nothing on there that shows that they're, actively playing, because that is more or less like a CV for you. You can go on there, you can see your videos, you can see, your profile should state, what your name, your height, your weight, your positions, the foot that you play, right? It's a CV. It's an easy way of putting a CV out there. So those are some of the things I would advise young players.
All right, young players, you don't have to ask me any longer. She already answered these questions, and for the issue of the national teams, we need to find a solution. She says we need to look at ourselves. It has to be a marriage. You need to play your role, I play my role, then we can have a proper national team, devoid of speculations and hearsay and all the likes of it. So hopefully I'll be able to get you to talk to us some other times. Who are the players you manage right now?
I manage players. I actually align myself with an academy. Okay. In Nigeria, Rose Fire Academy, brilliant academy in Lagos, and I work with some of their players. So there's Chinon Sofor, who is currently playing in Belgium. Then I have some players who are playing in Latvia, in Lithuania. Those ones are not well known yet, but you'll hear their names very, very soon. And then I have a player who is in Saudi Arabia. He's like an older player, and he's finishing his career. That's where you go to go collect. Well, yeah, that's a story for another day, honestly.
Oh, really? Honestly, tell us, what's the story? Tell us.
Well, let's just hope they pay him the salaries that they're promising.
Oh, wow. Really?
That's all I'm going to say.
Really?
That's all I'm going to say.
Wow, yeah. That's interesting.
But that's where they normally go to finish their careers and, make a bit of money.
All right, a whole lot of money, isn't it? All right, still